for that really generous introduction. Gee, after that, I'm really anxious to hear what I have to say. And I'm grateful to my family being here today. They're from Houston and San Antonio, so they were very pleased to come and get out of Texas. My wife Cheryl was my rock, and it's really amazing that the person that knows me best is still stuck around for nearly 43 years. And her advice about this speech was really very good. She said, don't try to be charming or funny, just be yourself. My daughters and son-in-laws would have been here but for the toddlers, and Lord knows we don't have enough 2-year-olds in Washington, so and my 99-year-old mother would have loved to have been here, but she's 99, so she couldn't make it. But I grew up 70 miles from here in San Antonio, and my mother is noted was a very spirited British war bride who survived the bombings of Manchester when she was there. My father was from Nebraska. He was the straightest of straight shooters, and they taught me to stand up for what was right, except of course when they disagreed with me. But a half-British, half-Nebraskan Jewish boy growing up in San Antonio in the 1950s and 60s was a little bit of a stranger in a strange land. My high school, I remember we had an integrated class, but segregated classrooms. And if you really want to stoke the anxieties of a teenager, they had selective social clubs. And the elite one had no blacks and one Jew. And needless to say, it wasn't me. So that, I know I can't know what the experience is of someone who has been a victim of systemic racism, but just that taste of exclusion made me an advocate a zealous advocate for civil rights. And then I read To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was inevitable that I would go to law school after that. And well, that plus my, charitably called my adversarial bent. But my luckiest break as a young lawyer was to land a clerkship with Justice Marshall. And he had a pet name for each of his clerks, Knucklehead. and none of us were really sure whether that was derisive or affectionate, or we just didn't remember our names. But he would come in to the clerk's anteroom and he would plop down in the big easy chair and he would tell stories for hours. And I knew that I would be working late, but stories were the best part. And they were stories about his days in the civil rights movement. And they were stories about inhumanity and vicious racism, and they were stories about courage and sacrifice and really close brushes with death. And they were inspiring. They stoked the idealism of a young lawyer. But I have to admit that in the years that followed that, in the grind of law practice and raising kids, the idealism didn't die, but it was submerged until 1993, when Justice Marshall passed away. And his clerk stood vigil in the Supreme Court as we rotated through, as thousands and thousands of people filed by, people from all walks of life, business men and women, mothers, diplomats in African robes. And watching that thinking back to that year, I realized, it was like a punch in the gut, that the law clerk of 15 years before would be disappointed in the lawyer who was standing there then. And I vowed at that point that I would try to make a difference for the people who are the least fortunate among us, and try to reconnect with the moral basis of the law. And I'm not nearly on a scale like Justice Marshall, or not like the people who devote full time to public service. Those are the heroes of our bar. But to do something. And so that led me to pro bono work, it led me to government service, and ultimately it led me to the section on civil rights and social justice. Now, Bob Drinan was a chair of this section, and back when it was called IR&R, and who could speak with more authority about the moral responsibilities of lawyers. In 1997, he described how important lawyers were to what America aspires to be and to carving the future moral path of the law. And he was right, because what makes this country exceptional is that, unlike Japan, which is bound together by ethnicity, or France by language, or England by history, this country is bound together by an idea of equal justice and liberty. And yes, we haven't, even to this day, lived up to it, but it still binds us together. You may remember the book, A Tale of Two Cities, and it starts off, this is the best of times, this is the worst of times. Well, in a way, this is the worst of times for lawyers, because we are the guardians of the rule of law, and it's in jeopardy. And it's more than really ever before in my lifetime, and that's a really long time. We have a president who publicly encouraged a foreign country to meddle in our elections, and then who tried to strong-arm another foreign country to meddle in the next one. A president who wanted to bar immigration to people based on their religion, who put children in cages, who rails against federal judges, who calls for the prosecution of his political opponents, who regards the Justice Department as his personal tool for political rewards and retribution. And that is a threat to the rule of law. And it's particularly dangerous because if we lose that bond that still ties us together, there's not much else that will keep this country from tearing apart. And yet, and my wife would be surprised to hear me say this because she says I'm a glass three-quarters empty kind of guy. And yet, I think it's also the best of times for lawyers. And for the same reason, that we're guardians of the rule of law. We are the people, we're the first responders. The rule of law is in trouble, and we are the first responders. We are the ones who stand to defend the rule of law. We are the people who will take this opportunity to make a difference with skill and passion to preserve our democratic system and values. And this is our duty, and it is our time. Now, back when this section was celebrating its 20th anniversary, Father Drinan observed that the ABA was established for many purposes, but surely one of the most important objectives is its role in safeguarding those basic rights and freedoms which are the priceless treasure of of Anglo-American law. Thank you. The section of individual rights and responsibilities, which is now CRSJ, has been the foremost agency within the ABA for that purpose. Now, more than 3 decades later, safeguarding our freedoms is still one of the principal objectives of the ABA, and the section is still the foremost agency within the ABA working to fulfill it. It's done so with conviction, creativity, and persistence. It's been the conscience of the ABA helping and pushing the organization to be at the front of the defense of the rule of law. And the section's role is more important now than ever before. And that's why I treasured the opportunity to chair the section, why I respect and admire the work that my successors have done, and why I am so deeply, deeply honored to receive this award. Thank you.
Nice to see you.